and welcome to our Friday GoodNight meditation session. And as we come together here in the new year, all full of enthusiasm to reset, to restart the new year with some goals, with some practices that can help us sustain. With the realization that there are no failures. Each experience has a lesson to teach us. Each experience has an outcome. And if the outcome is per our defined, predefined labels, so called success or failure, and if it matches with the success label, then we feel happy. But if we realize that it doesn't match, the outcome doesn't match with the label that we have defined, then we may label it as a failure. So, the way we see the world, the way we see our life or anyone else's life, is just through the lens of these labels that we have acquired. Some of them we have acquired based on past experiences, past births, what we have been conditioned to since childhood. So a lot of the labels are, if we may call them, gifts of our parents or society, culture. And these labels lead to instability, up, down, lead to our mental state, which is often in conflict. For example, based on our past and scars, habits, one may not be very fond of the cold weather or rain or very hot weather. So they'll tend to always complain if the weather is not per their expectations. Weather is as it is. Weather doesn't need anyone's approval. If it's cold, we don't like it. If it's too hot, we don't like it. But Mother Nature or the environment is independent, ongoing as it is. So our world, and each one has their own world, is basically a manifestation of our labels, our likes and dislikes, our expectations. And how did this happen? How did we get to this stage? And this is, to some extent, the root cause of all our sadness, sorrow, disappointments. Because sometimes weather is not up to the mark, sometimes people's behavior is not up to the mark. So, how do we solve this? Solution is rather simple. And as anything, it also requires some practice. If you look around the room where you're sitting, there are many things around you. And if you notice, when you look at those things, there is some mental commentary that goes on in the mind. Just unnecessary chatter. Or we can just say some chatter. It may or may not happen right now because we're doing this very consciously. But please note down that typically when you're outside or anywhere, food, anything that you're doing, there's some chatter that goes on in the background. Oh, this tastes good. Oh no, today the salt is a little too much or too less. So let's take some practices where you'll just observe the chatter and not get involved in the chatter. Realize that the mind has gotten used to chattering because we have given it that approval, that authority. We have created that habit. And just like when a child does something that you don't want them to do because it's inappropriate, then one of the ways to address it or handle it is by explaining and sometimes by just not paying attention to that specific action or behavior. Because sometimes the more we pay attention to, the stronger it becomes. So one way to do is just do, not feed it with more discussion and more energy. Similarly, our mind is like a child. We have trained it by taking every single thought very seriously and fueling it, feeding it more and more energy and making those habits stronger, as if they are very important, as if they are center of attention. So now, when you observe that chatter going on while you're eating, while you're brushing your teeth, while you're looking around in the room, or while taking a walk outside, just observe and try not to label. This is good, this is bad, this is cold, this is hot. No need to label. Or if the label comes, just observe and just smile at it. Just laugh at it. Oh, there is a label. Oh, there is another label. Make it into a fun exercise, fun practice. Not to judge the self or others. Just catch yourself labeling unconsciously. Because once we start observing, more than half the work is already done. When we are unconscious and not even realizing it, then it's hard to catch. You may also do this more consciously, like take an object in your hand and just observe it. Could be a piece of paper or something that somebody may have given. And just consciously observe it for what it is. Just an object. Needing zero labels. And this is the way, the gateway to freedom. When we become label free, we can stay constant, stable. Because the labels cause some ping pong effect, up and down effect in the mind, influencing us. So as we come to the end of our session tonight, churn on this, play with this idea. Start with small exercises, because those small exercises give us the power to try them in bigger situations. And we wish you a very good evening, Good night, and have a blessed weekend ahead. Om Shanti. Good night.